with Beth Osborne, Senior Policy Advisor with Transportation for America. Beth, an open roadway, no cars on it, traffic moving, whatever there is, traffic moving quickly. Is that a success or is that a failure? Could you maybe tell me why it could be one of either?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It could be considered a success from an engineering perspective because it means that traffic is moving freely. And one of the greatest things we fear in transportation is that traffic would bog down. Traffic congestion, you'll see in most reporting on transportation being one of the number one concerns. However, you could also argue that a roadway that is never fully utilized is not being efficiently, it's not an efficient use of taxpayer resources. It could even be called a boondoggle if it's always open. You might also point out that if it's wide open, it maybe isn't attracting the economic activity that was expected, and that is also a failure because the point of transportation is not for people to travel. It is for people to go someplace and hopefully spend their money and create jobs and create a benefit for their households.
So why is it that there are some of these wide open roadways? Where are the states getting the money to build these, and what are the incentives in place to do so?
Well, right now, the way we build our transportation system, it is based on making sure that traffic is free flowing. Now, in some places, it might be a smaller community that the roadway is wide open because there just aren't a lot of people that live out there. And even if it's not a very wide road, it's going to be wide open because we're trying to provide people with connections to where they need to go. In some places, it is because we're taking highway standards and applying them to local roads and insisting that the roadways be built with wide lanes, with lots of lanes, with clear zones on the side of them, and with fast-moving traffic, even if that's not what the local community calls for or wants.
Okay. Now, in Alabama, there's something called the Northern Beltway in Birmingham or outside of Birmingham. What is that project, and in your opinion, is that a good use of resources?
That project is basically a downtown bypass. As the term belt line insinuates, it goes around the community. It is intended to reduce congestion through downtown Birmingham and to take through traffic out of downtown Birmingham. However, downtown Birmingham is not one of the most congested communities in the country. I believe it ranks below 70 on the Texas Transportation Institute's ranking, and might be 80th. And this will only reduce congestion by between 1% and 3%, but the project costs $5.4 billion over 20 years. That's a very expensive project, one of the more expensive projects in the country for a small benefit in terms of traffic congestion reduction. Also, when you look at what the local folks have prioritized, they prioritized 30 projects ahead of it, and you could build all 30 of their higher priority projects for $1 billion. So it just seems like there's some kind of disconnect there between what the state is prioritizing and what the locals are prioritizing. And before we spend that much money, this is a difference of opinion that should probably be resolved.
Okay. And finally, tell me a little bit about Indianapolis. They've done some development in Indianapolis that kind of changed the way that people move around. What have they done, and how successful has it been?
Yeah, and I apologize for not having some of the statistics right at my fingertips, but when Mayor Ballard was mayor of Indianapolis, he just recently left, he pushed for a project along with a local nonprofit in the business community, something called the Cultural Trail, which went through downtown Indianapolis that had some very wide open roads and took some of the traffic lanes and put it to use for bicyclists and pedestrians and cafe seating and things like that for the businesses along the way. And they have found a great response in the development community. There's a recent study that shows businesses are staying open later. They're opening on the weekends now. There's been a large amount of housing development in downtown for the first time in quite some years. And this system of trails connects into a trail called the Monon Trail, which goes out into the suburbs. That is known by, the city officials call it their beachfront property because it's so popular for development to come near. It just turns out that people of all ages, they want to live near an area where they can move around both in and outside of a car. And we spent so much time designing communities well for a car, we've left the rest out, and we need to recreate some balance. Where we do, like in places like downtown Indianapolis, you see great economic and quality of life success.
Okay, well, I think that's all I need. Thank you very much.
Thank you.